Fiji, of course, is committed to the Pacific ACP states' effort to conclude the comprehensive EPA as a single region. We are also committed to establishing a formal trade and economic partnership with the EU through the EPA. This will be our first partnership with a trading bloc of developed countries. By virtue of it being the first, it needs to be done right. In other words, the EPA needs to be a vehicle for sustainable development for the Pacific by enabling the region to utilize its resources to attract onshore investment, encourage value addition, and of course, encourage exports. Concluding a development-friendly EPA will also set a precedent for a favorable PACER Plus agreement with Australia and New Zealand and subsequent agreements that could be negotiated by the Pacific states. Therefore, a successful EPA is critical to the region, given our relationship with the EU, plus its precedent value. Global sourcing for fresh and frozen fish, in addition to global sourcing for processed fish, is a key component of development-friendly and balanced EPA for the Pacific. Global sourcing will allow the region to gain more benefits from its single largest shared resource. Many Pacific ACP countries face challenges in developing their own fishing fleets and setting up processing factories. Through global sourcing, the region will be able to pool resources and enter into joint ventures to attract onshore investment and develop its infrastructure. This will allow all the countries of our region to share the benefits of our fisheries more equally. The region, in turn, will have access to more jobs, especially for women, and better living standards. In this sense, we share the EC's concern that our fisheries resources need to be conserved and sustainably managed. In essence, our objectives are the same. PACP countries will be the biggest losers if there is a failure in our conservation and management measures. We understand that. In this context, the Pacific states have put in place a raft of measures to manage and conserve their resources. However, I don't believe that differences in how we approach conservation should stop or delay us from achieving a favorable EPA, nor should it be used as a reason for not extending global sourcing to frozen and fresh fish. As studies have shown, global sourcing will not only achieve socio-economic development by alleviating poverty and creating gainful employment, it will also enhance regional integration, and that is critical, in particular given our demographics. The Pacific states would like to reiterate that global sourcing for processed fish, which is already included in the interim EPA, should be immutable. It is our position that this needs to be extended to fresh and frozen fisheries products and provided to all Pacific states without any restrictions. Some investment in the region has already taken place in anticipation of the extension of global sourcing rules to fresh and frozen fisheries products. Fiji and Kiribati have already entered into a joint venture arrangement through investment by Golden Ocean, and plans are in the pipeline to have similar commercial joint venture operations between Fiji and Tuvalu. We agree that our fisheries management policies, whether national or sub-regional or regional, should be transparent and applied fairly. However, our valued partners like the EU should recognize our national laws, as well as our sub-regional and regional measures. Our partners should also complement our conservation efforts. The PACP states have sovereignty over the territorial waters and sovereign rights in the exclusive economic zones. The fisheries resources in the waters of the Pacific should be sustainably utilized to achieve the development aspirations of PACP states by encouraging investment in both upstream and downstream value addition activities and job creation. The PACP states have also agreed to comply with the EC's regulation on illegal, unregulated, and reported fishing and to take measures to combat IUU. Again, we have the same interest here, which is to protect our precious shared resources. For example, Fiji has put in place offshore fisheries management decree that allows Fiji only recently, that allows Fiji to not only regulate fishing within our zone, but also offshore fishing by Fiji-flagged vessels. There are stringent penalties in the decree that deter IUU fishing. In addition, our long-line vessels have vessels monitoring systems that chart the fishing activity. Fiji was also chosen as a pilot country by the Fishing and Agricultural Organization to have observer cameras on board fishing vessels. In December 2012, the Fijian albacore longline fishery was awarded the Marine Stewardship Council certification and was the fourth tuna fishery industry in the Pacific to achieve this. The MSC enables traceability from the sea to the shelves and sets rigorous standards for sustainable and well-managed fisheries. Therefore, my message to this group is that we have a small window of opportunity to unlock the development benefits that the EPA has promised. As we all know, the preferences accorded by the EU through duty-free, quota-free entry will not last in perpetuity and may soon erode as other partners finalize agreements with the EU. Therefore, I urge the EC to take heed of the deadline the Pacific ACP side is working towards. The Pacific leaders have already extended the deadlines for the conclusion of EPA twice. We need a firm commitment and cooperation from the EU to ensure that negotiations are concluded in June 2013. We are at a crucial stage of EPA negotiations. Both sides need to work on their final positions. Further delays in the negotiations will not work in any party's favor and may lead to a missed opportunity to conclude the EPA. We need to build on the momentum that was achieved at the end of last year and bring the long-standing negotiations to a conclusion by June 2013. On this note, I request that this technical working group, after returning home to their respective countries, sends the necessary feedbacks and proposals for the fisheries chapter of the EPA and for the global sourcing rules of origin of fresh and frozen fish. The Pacific ACP trade ministers in the upcoming meeting in May need concrete proposals on the table to conclude negotiations on the comprehensive EPA. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best in working towards our targets. Minaka, thank you.